Hey guys, welcome back to the biggest agricultural platform in Namibia known as Nduna Wengombe, which means Headman of Cattle. My name, of course, Mitchell Mutumba Simata, aka the Headman of Cattle. So today, I'd love to talk about the two Brahmans we have, the two shade of colors of Brahmans. What are the differences between the two of them? Is there differences or it's just the same animal? So before I get into that information, I just want to remind you guys to hit that sharp button down there and also to hit your subscription button and turn on your bell notification to be notified of future uploads from me on this agri channel known as Nduna Wengombe. So without wasting any time, let's get into this information. As you guys know, I'm never writing solo. I got my trusted notebook with me here. My not so flattering handwriting, as one person told me. Let's get into this information. Red Brahman cattle display characteristics of the Gir breed, while the Grey Brahman cattle display more characteristics of the Gujarat breed. But as far as noticeable differences go, with Red Brahman cattle and Grey Brahman cattle, there are virtually no difference other than the color coat. That comes from Maroon Ranches. That's what they had to say. I got more information. This comes from the BRC blog, which is, I think, a Brahman blog. So, the hide color of the American Brahman is one that has a lot of variations. And if you are new in the breed, it can take a little time to understand the differences. While all American Brahmans are registered under one herd book, the breed is divided into two official color classifications, Grey Brahman and Red Brahman. The Grey Brahman cattle displays more of the characteristics typical of the Gir, an ancestor that was one of the four breeds that formed the American Brahman as we know it today. A lot of this is due to the heavy influence of J.D. Hudgens bloodlines, which also carried a more traditional, a Gujarat type in the early 1900s, and early development of the breed. Manso, the foundation CEO of the breed, was a Grey Brahman, and his influence helped shape the foundation of the breed. Many of the original Brazilian import bulls that J.D. Hudgens imported in the early 1920s were also solid grey bulls. Within the grey classification, you can still have some variations in color. This include solid white / solid grey, darker blackish grey pigment along the front shoulders, hindquarters, but lighter colors in the middle. Blue colors, which is a dark grey color but pink ears and tips. A black or dark pigmented color with black ear tips and body point tips. It is also possible to have what is called a red tang color in the grey breed. This is a 100% grey pedigree animal, but one that has a reddish orangish color. I think in Namibia we would mostly say they are, I've seen this, but we would say they're khaki. There's also the khaki color, so probably that's what they're busy trying to tell us here. A very deep red, even though the pedigree is 100% grey. A solid grey with red on the top of the head, mostly in polled animals, and along the top line. Then you have the Red Brahman. The Red Brahman is one that emerged about 20 years after the formation of the American Brahman Breeders Association in the 1920s and was heavily influenced by the Mexican imports. Some of the traditional red cattle are descendants from the Gir breed, which was also one of the four foundations of the American Brahman. Traditionally, red cattle from those early days of the breed had more of a roll to head and sometimes may have longer ears. Within the red classification, hair color is primarily a reddish tint color, almost an orangish color, but again, they have variation in color. Lighter shades of red with a little gray color mixed in. This is what some refer to the pink Brahman as a slang term. Most interbred between the red and a grey mother and father. Solid dark cherry red. This is the preferred coloration of the Red Brahman. A very dark, deep red, almost purple or black tint, which is also highly favorable. Most all true Red Brahmans will also have a black skin pigment base. So they will have a black tip, ears, and black reproductive organs. Speckled. I like speckled. I had a couple of them. I think they look unique. I think they're nice. Speckled cattle are also seen in the Red Brahman, meaning they are white spotted along the neck. Sometimes I've seen some which are covered the entire body. I had a couple. I think I owned about 2 of them. They look like that. Red Brahman cattle can also be deep, dark, almost solid black color and still get registered as a red. No matter the color, a Brahman is a Brahman. It's all down to personal preference. So I think that puts away the myth that has existed that white, bigger, heavier, meatier, red, smaller, skinnier, more milk. I think those are myths that have been put away with this information and also with the research that has been done, not by me, but by people who are interested in this topic. They have put away this myth to say that a Brahman is just a Brahman, even though they're registered as grey and red. I know in most breeds, you don't say red semental, you just say a semental. It doesn't matter the color classification. Even though I see America has black semental cattle, we don't have them here. We have yellow, red, and almost goldish in color. But I think they don't register them concerning their color. They just register them as semental cattle. So I think that should put away the myth of the Brahmans, where some people think, the red one is small. It doesn't have meat. They don't want it at the abattoir. No, it's not that. It's just the different colors. And one has a Gujarat, other one has a Jir characteristics. So it depends who was bred out of what. So what are my 2 cents on the topic? I think it goes down to personal preference. I think people need to put away those biases they have. The Red Brahman performs quite exceptionally well, particularly in South Africa when you go to auctions like the Krugerveld auction or you go to other red breeders in South Africa. They sell their red animals at a very good price. I think it's just a myth here in Namibia that we have. And I know many of us tend to believe that the red one doesn't really have money. I think it's just a myth, and I think the red one probably might not have that much money when you sell it. I've seen at auctions where red Brahman cattle would sometimes be returned back to the auctioning pens while the white ones are getting sellers. So it could just be personal preference. People probably prefer the white one more here in Namibia than they prefer the red one. You could go to other countries like South Africa. South Africa, they always say that South Africa is a red cattle country. They prefer more the red ones than the white ones. So I think it goes down to personal preference and also probably some biases some people have, probably from their own, I don't know where they got them, but they have their own personal biases against certain breeds. Against the Red Brahman, and sometimes makes them look down upon the Red Brahman. But my opinion, I think both breeds are good. It just comes down to what you want. If you want the white in your craw, go for white. If you want red in your craw, go for red. But let's not sit here and discriminate and say the white is better than the red. Because from the information that I gathered from the experts, they're just saying, hey man, Brahman is just a Brahman. Doesn't matter whether they're farming red or farming white. They look the same. They behave the same. They physically look the same, just the colors differ. They behave the same. It's one and the same thing. Because even if you look at the white one, it also has Jir blood in it. Because the Jir was used to develop it. Even though it has more Gujarat blood. But it has G genetics in it. Same thing with the red. I'm sure the red has also some Gujarat and also some more. Maybe they went more Jir blood in it. That's why it looks more like the Jir. So those are my 2 cents on that. What do I prefer? I like both of them, but if I had to choose between red and white, I'd go red. Particularly those ones with the long floppy ears. I like those ones, and the speckled color ones. I love those speckled color Brahman cattle, particularly the Brahman bulls that are speckled color. There was one that was at a show a couple of years back, fully speckled, red Brahman, fully speckled. I fell in love with it. So those are my 2 cents on the color variations of the Brahmans, and does it really mean if it's this color, it's smaller or lighter? No, I just feel like it's sometimes some misconception information we get from somewhere and we run with it. Or probably a white breeder told you that, so you fall in love to buy more white. And because I know sometimes with certain breeds, because people compete, remember we're in business, we're trying to sell our products. I would sometimes come and say, the red is better than the white. The red adapts better to the various conditions and ticks. It has better milk and whatnot. And then the white girl will tell you, the white Brahman is heavier than the red. It's bigger, it has more muscle. But then when you sit down and really apply your mind to it, you just realize, man, this is the same animal, just different colors. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say bye for now.